Radical HR Interview, torniamo in diretta questo mercoledì 27 aprile su tutti i nostri social e naturalmente su LinkedIn, che è il social per eccellenza, sul quale ci occupiamo di persone, di people, di risorse umane, di trasformazione. È un piacere essere con voi oggi e sarà un piacere anche tra pochissimo essere col nostro ospite che vi andrò a presentare. Sono particolarmente, come dire, contento e carico in questo periodo perché stiamo facendo tanto, lo devo dire, stiamo facendo tanto insieme alla community HR italiana per tutta quella che è la trasformazione delle nostre aziende, dei nostri modi di lavorare, la sfida non tanto del new normal a cui abbiamo insomma giustamente abdicato tempo fa, ma la sfida di costruzione di tutti i new ways of working con alcuni punti al centro. Sapete che in questi giorni abbiamo riaperto le iscrizioni a Radical HR Club, insomma miriamo a superare stabilmente i 500 iscritti, quindi 500 eccellenze dell'HR italiana che si formano e si trasformano e fanno network e accedono a contenuti di valore. Su questo al solito vi ricordo www.radicalhr.it, ma non solo questo, abbiamo anche un grande, devo dire grandissimo evento la settimana prossima, il 3 maggio, per chi sarà a Milano dal vivo, per chi invece non riuscirà in streaming, vi mettiamo poi nei commenti tra poco il link per partecipare a questo grande evento, il primo evento italiano sul corporate well-being, in cui presenteremo una ricerca che abbiamo fatto insieme a FID e a Miglia sullo stato del corporate well-being in Italia. Non vi anticipo niente per ora, nel senso che poi avremo tempo il 3 maggio alle 18 a Milano in FID Arena, in via Tortona, per anche incontrarci dal vivo, un bel evento, due grandi speaker internazionali, altri 8 speaker per il primo grande evento sul corporate well-being in Italia. Questi gli appuntamenti da darvi, poi all'interno dei commenti vi risegnaliamo tutto, ma se ci state seguendo, se state seguendo me, Radical HR su LinkedIn, avete sicuramente visto tutte queste cose in questi giorni. E adesso veniamo invece all'argomento di questa live, di questa mattinata. Ho il piacere di ospitare una persona che è un esperto di future of work, che ormai sta diventando anche un amico con cui stiamo collaborando con regolarità in Radical HR Club, e ho il piacere di invitarlo quest'oggi. Come nel migliore degli eventi, ma Ecco, vediamo se riusciamo a partire con questa live di questa mattina. È il terzo tentativo, lo dico per chi magari ci sta seguendo e ci sta perdendo. I problemi di connessione capitano come dire, nell'era della digital transformation e della digitalizzazione. Speriamo di averlo risolto, naturalmente cambiando provider, cambiando connessione in questo momento. Allora, ancora una volta, ben trovati, buona mattinata, mercoledì 27 aprile, le 10:38 in diretta sui canali di Radicale HR e sui miei canali per parlare di trasformazione, per parlare di people, e in particolare lo facciamo qui su LinkedIn e lo faremo tra pochissimo con un ospite. Vi devo solo dire due cose prima di presentarvi l'ospite. Una cosa importantissima, abbiamo riaperto le iscrizioni a Radical HR Club in questo periodo, in queste settimane, quindi se avete voglia di unirvi ormai a più di 500 HR che ogni giorno come dire, si formano, fanno network e lavorano sulla propria crescita professionale, sul proprio mindset e sulla trasformazione delle proprie aziende, vi aspetto www.radicalehr.it e adesso vi mettiamo nei commenti questo link. Secondo appuntamento importante, quello del 3 maggio prossimo, martedì prossimo a Milano. Presentiamo una ricerca importantissima, la prima ricerca sullo stato dell'arte del corporate well-being in Italia, Corporate Well-being Italia 2022, e lo facciamo in un evento in FID. La ricerca l'abbiamo realizzata in collaborazione con FID e Emilia e poi con il supporto di The Grid, di 21 Way of Living, di Fit Prime, quindi insomma avremo tanti amici, tanti ospiti, già iscritti, insomma un numero molto alto di HR italiani, e avremo un grande evento con ben 10 speaker, tra cui Laura Jackson e Kelly Palmer, quindi due grandi speaker internazionali per parlare di corporate well-being. Martedì 3 maggio alle 18 a Milano in FID. Vi mettiamo anche in questo caso la pagina dell'evento per registrarsi, per partecipare è obbligatorio registrarsi, se non riuscirete a essere a Milano si può partecipare anche in streaming. E adesso invece veniamo all'intervista di questa mattina, questa Radical HR interview con un personaggio che frequentiamo regolarmente all'interno di Radical HR Club e che è un grande esperto, uno dei più grandi esperti europei di futuro del lavoro, di future of work. Passo all'inglese da questo momento, visto che il nostro ospite di questa mattina è Santi García, founder of the Future for Work Institute. Santi, first of all, how are you and where are you at the moment?
Thank you for the invitation. First of all, Alessandro, it's a pleasure for me to be again with you and all the members of the Radical HR community. At this moment, I'm talking from Barcelona. Well, in fact, I'm like 15 kilometers away from Barcelona. It's a sunny day in this part of the Mediterranean, and it's a pleasure to be with you again. I'm sorry for the Italian audience, ma il mio italiano non è abbastanza buono per fare questa intervista in italiano.
Come on, it's amazing. You speak a great Italian. If you want, we can try. You can speak a bit of Italian. E yo puedo intentar de hablar un poquito de español. Así hacemos una directa mucho strana.
Sí.
Santi, you wrote a book. The title is La resiliencia de las organizaciones, el secreto está nel sistema. La resilienza delle organizzazioni, il segreto sta nel sistema. Libros de cabecera is the publishing house that published your book. First of all, emotions about publishing this book, and how was it born and why you decided to write this book?
Well, at the end, this book is the result of my work at Future for Work Institute. In the Future for Work Institute, we help organizations to be alert about what's going on in the world of work, all these changes that we are witnessing these days. At the end of the day, thinking about all this transformation that is happening, not only in the world, but also and particularly in the world of work and in the world of managing people in organization, I concluded that somehow all those changes are the result or are the consequence of companies trying to be more resilient in a world that is changing in a very, very fast speed. Yeah.
And Santi, one question. Some time ago, if I go back in time, the word resilience sounded, let me say, like a buzzword in our ears. Today, we understand it is a supportive, let me say, skill for everyone.
Yes.
Can you on that? And I think you agree. I mean, seeing the title of your book, and why resilience is so important nowadays.
Yeah. I agree. I completely agree with your comments, Alessandro. In Spain, is the same. You know, if you talk about resilience or the adjective resilient, I mean, many people can think that this is another trending topic, another buzzword. In fact, in Spain, you know, in 2020, the word resilience was a candidate for word of the year. So it's normal. People think like that. But when you look around you and you observe and you explore what is going on in different dimensions of our environment, like technology, economy, society, we need that. In fact, it's a need. People and organizations need to be resilient because in this complex and never-changing environment where we are living, resilience is becoming a matter of survival. You need resilience to survive in this changing, uncharted world we are living in. In regards to your comment about how important resilience is from the perspective of resilience being a quality of people, you know, being a kind of competence or a kind of skill. The subtitle of my book, that it's the secret is in the system, refers precisely to the fact that at least from our experience, during these 2 years of pandemic, of the COVID crisis, many companies discovered that they are more resilient than they thought they were. But many of them have been able to achieve this resilience, leveraging the resilience of individual people, of the people that work for them. And sometimes leveraging that personal resilience even too much, to the point, and I heard at the beginning that you are organizing an event around corporate well-being. So many companies have leveraged so much this personal resilience that this has a price in terms of the mental health of the workers. Many workers are now tired, are burnout, precisely because their flexibility, their adaptability, their resilience, in one term, has been too much.
Yeah. The point about that, Santi, is if being resilient is becoming like mandatory through the business disruption that we are living, or probably how we can learn to prevent crisis. Otherwise, I mean, being just resilient is like the extreme solution to a problem that already exists.
Yes.
So can we switch in some
Sure.
way and anticipate and prevent the crisis?
Yes. I mean, of course, one thing that it's important to take into consideration, and I think is one of the things all of us have learned during this crisis, during the past years, is that there's not such thing as a crystal ball where we can see the future. The world is very unpredictable. It's very difficult to anticipate what's going on. But precisely because the world is very difficult to anticipate and it's very difficult to make predictions, it's because it's important to create organizations that they are able to adapt, to take quick decisions, to execute those decisions, and above of all that, to learn from those experiences and to increase the base of knowledge of the organization so they are better prepared for the next crisis. So in this context, it's very important how we design organizations. It's not just a matter of hiring resilient people. Of course, being resilient is good for individual people, because in this world, in this ever-changing world, being resilient is a good quality. It will be good for your well-being, it will be good for your health, it will be good for your happiness in general, but for organization, it's important to design other dimensions of their business models, of their organizational structures, of their work methods, beyond hiring resilient people.
So the point, Santi, is what should organization and HR and managers do to redesign their organizations and to train themselves and their people to be able to operate in a resilient mode?
Yeah, I think that one of the first things they can do, HR professionals, is to try to help the people in the organizations, particularly managers and executives, a systemic vision of the organization. It's very important. Those managers, those executives, don't look at their organizations as a collection of independent boxes. Interconnected boxes, but independent boxes. Organizations are complex systems that they are open to influences from their environment, and everything is connected with everything. So this is very, very important. Second point is to develop critical thinking about to what extent different practices in the organizations are obstacles for the resilience of the organization. For instance, the way we define our plans, the way we take our decisions, some particular HR practices, like the way we set objectives to the people, or the way we reward the achievement of those objectives. One typical problem in many companies is that those incentive systems that they are linked to the achievement of certain objectives block the direction of the people, and when a change is necessary, because those rewards are linked to achieving that direction, then they don't move when it's necessary to move, and this can represent a problem. But it's not just only a matter of HR practices, it's also resilience is also something that has to do with the work methods, with the so-called new ways of working. Why many companies today, they are adopting the agile methods, for instance? Maybe some of those companies, it's because it's a kind of fashion, it's okay, everyone is adopting agile methods, so I will adopt agile methods too. But at the end of the day, if you understand, and if you make a reflection about what is the origin of agile methods, it's a need for adaptation in a changing world. So these kind of methods can help. Also in terms of organizational structures, many companies are saying that the traditional pyramids, the traditional hierarchical organization, vertical organization, sometimes are too rigid and too slow when the environment requires companies to move very fast. So they change these models and they try to set organizations based on projects, in networks, etc.
Santi, I'm pretty curious to understand when you started working on this book, La resilienza delle organizzaciones. Do you find any difference between different typologies of companies, maybe bigger and smaller, or a difference between companies in Spain or in other countries in Europe? Just to understand if the topic of new ways of working and resilience is set and seen in different ways, or if at the end of the day, the problems and the solutions are pretty the same?
There are differences. There are differences.
Okay.
For instance, if we compare small size organizations and large organizations, the size have advantages, but also have disadvantages. For instance, large organizations tend to have more resources, and resources are good to be resilient. Many companies are not resilient enough because they don't have enough resources. It's a matter of fact. Okay, and normally large companies tend to be wealthier and have more financial resources that they can use to make changes or to make adaptations and so. But on the other hand, one problem of large organizations is normally tend to be more bureaucratic. The bureaucracy makes them slower when it's necessary to take very fast decisions. Also, we can see differences in terms of the industry companies play. Normally the most resilient organizations we found it in highly dynamic industries. For instance, in the high-tech industry, in software industry, internet. The things there are changed very, very fast, and resilience or organizational resilience becomes a matter of survival. So from scratch, those companies are designed to be resilient. However, yeah.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, your sentence, if you want to survive, you must be resilient, and that's it. It's like there's no possibility number two at the end of the day. But that's true.
It's true. It's true. There's no alternative, particularly in those industries, and particularly when we're talking about small startups or very innovative companies. In any sector where innovation it's critical, you find resilient organizations.
That's very interesting, and I have another question, the last question about your book, Santi. What kind of capabilities do companies need their people to have to be more resilient, to be more adaptive to this continuous change?
Yeah, I think there's a series of capacities of
a long series.
It's a long bit but if I had to highlight a few, I would start with curiosity. For me, it's very important. People are very attentive to what's going around them, to early detect signals of change, so they can anticipate something is changing, some kind of change is coming. It's important also preparation, to be prepared, to prepare ourselves. Then everything related to decision making, to fast decision making. Companies in this context, resilient companies need to be able to take good decisions and to take them fast and execute them fast and good. And finally, I would highlight continuous learning. I think it's important we learn, but not only individual learning. We need to promote collective learning. We need people, not only curious people that learn by themselves and they keep for themselves the knowledge they acquire, but also people who are able to share that knowledge, people who are generous, who collaborate, who are open to listen to new ideas, who provide feedback. And on top of this base of competences, I would highlight that resilient organizations need another kind of leaders. They need leaders.
What do you mean with another kind of leaders, Santi?
Yeah, for me, to develop cultures of resilience in organization, it's important those organizations have leaders that are able to build contexts of trust with their people. They need leaders that they create the so-called psychological safety environments, where people are able to raise their hands and say, okay, something is not going okay here, we've got a problem, or I've got an alternative idea to this kind of things we are doing here. And this is important for the leaders. Leaders also need to play a role facilitating the work of their teams, eliminating obstacles, creating connections. So it's not a world. The world of resilient organizations is not a world where leaders, it's not a command and control world. I mean, leaders just say, okay, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do the other thing, and then I control if you have done those things. No.
That's not leaders. Of course, I perfectly understand. I totally agree with you. When we speak of leadership, we speak of people able to give directions and to give the right sense of belonging to a project or organization. And it's not about, giving tasks or in a worst way and word orders. That's not leaders. They are, okay, we are full of pretending to be leaders in organization, acting like that, but it's just pretending to be leaders, and that's it. No more points on that. Santi, thank you very much for this conversation, this interview. I'm very happy to meet you again and to speak of your book. We also posted, guys, the title and also the direct link to buy the book of Santi García, La resiliencia de las organizaciones, el secreto, está, sistema. And we tried this morning to give you some advices and we did some considerations on resilience and new ways of working. Santi, again, thank you very much. Just last 20 seconds questions. What did you learn writing this book?
Well, I learned, and I think it's important that it's not there's no a single recipe for resilience, for organizational resilience. Every company, every organization needs to find their own way to their organizational resilience.
That's very good. Santi García, again, thank you very much. Santi García è il fondatore del Future for Work Institute e ci ha onorato della sua presenza questa mattina per presentarci il suo libro La resiliencia de las organizaciones, el secreto está nel sistema. Vi ho messo il link qui sotto, vi ho dato gli appuntamenti per il 3 maggio. Se volete entrare in Radical HR Club, radicalhr.it. Abbiamo avuto qualche problema tecnico, ma alla fine l'importante è che siamo riusciti a fare tutto. Grazie a voi per essere stati con noi questa mattina. Thank you, muchas gracias Santi García y hasta luego, hasta pronto.
Hasta luego, ci vediamo.